My name is Scott Hewitt, and I am the marketing director at Motiv Bowling. And I've been with the company for about 20 years. The company, and I'm just going to give some background information. The brand Motiv has only been around for about 4 years, so a lot of you in the room, I'm sure, know about the brand. A lot of you are not as familiar. So for those of you who know some of this information, just bear with me. But the company was started in the 70s, and we've been manufacturing products in the bowling industry since that time, from lane care products to epoxy for ball plugging, engraving fills, and then in the late 1980s, early 1990s, we got involved in high-performance core manufacturing. And that's what kind of obviously led us into Motiv eventually. But I just kind of want to touch through some of the background information there. In that 20 years when we were manufacturing the high-performance cores, literally millions of cores were produced at our facility. The reason that I mention that is because when we were manufacturing for another company, we had to become really good at making high performance, because it's different than when you're making them for yourself. Because if you have some seconds, sure, sometimes people manufacture seconds, they sell them at a discount to clear them out. We had to scrap everything that wasn't perfect. So over that 20-year period when we were manufacturing, we had to become really good at what we were doing. And so in that time, we dedicated ourselves to becoming very quality focused, very, very focused on top quality and precision. And there is one true story there that I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not, but this seriously happened. This was in the 1990s. It was a project. I don't remember what ball it was, but we were given a spec by the customer. And they said, okay, here's the target for this ball. We want this top weight. We want these pin distances, this type of thing. So we manufactured the first order. We were doing the inner cores and the outer cores at that time. The customer put the shell on the ball, packaged them all up, put them on the pallets, and then they called us up and they were like, hey, can you guys come down here to the warehouse and take a look at something? We got a problem. So the owners of the company went down there, took a look at the pallet, and they're walking around, they're looking at the tags, and they're going, I don't really see a problem here. What's the deal? And they're like, the problem is everything is like right on the target. We got to have some variance here, guys. And so to us in manufacturing, it was you give us a target and we nail it. We really work on hitting that. So I only mention that from the standpoint of so that you know when it comes to the Motiv product line that we're very quality focused, and when we have specs on the balls, we stay as tight as we possibly can. Another thing, and this is great knowledge in terms of for the pro shops and also for people that are out there coaching. If you're talking with a bowler about a particular product line, we offer the same core design in every weight. So within the ball model, this Thrash Frenzy, for example, this uses our core that we call the Quad Fire core. This particular ball, the 15-pound version, has a 255 RG. The differential is .043. The 12-pound ball, 259 RG with a diff of .050. So this is not typical of a 12-pound ball within our line where the diff is actually higher than the other products. That's pretty crazy. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're working with youth bowlers or you're working with senior bowlers and they're looking at high-performance equipment, and you know that typically they have to make a little bit of a sacrifice in terms of performance if they're going down to the lighter weights, keep in mind that when you're looking at this product line, we don't use generic cores in those lighter weights. We use the same core design throughout. Another comment, and this is coming from people in the field, from bowlers, from pro shops that have sold the product. People tell us that the longevity of our cover stocks is absolutely outstanding. And we actually there was one particular distributor that I spoke with last year, and their sales of Motiv had just really taken off. And I asked him, I said, what's the difference there? Why are you guys really rallying behind this so much? And they said, well, from a value standpoint, we really feel like your product line offers great value because the longevity is so much better. So typically they would have a high-performance ball, and you hear people, saying that, I bowl with a ball, it's, 50, 60 games, and it dies on me. We literally there was one of our staffers that tested a Raptor Talon of ours. He literally had 120 games on it That was over a 4-week period, and he said he saw no noticeable difference in performance loss. So in terms of the value for the customers, you know, I mean, the cover stock technology is outstanding also. And in terms of I'm just going to touch on the NeoMark Graphics quickly. We actually do not engrave the bowling balls. We have this patented graphics technology that we call NeoMark. Now, obviously, if you're dealing with a situation, say you have a polished bowling ball, and there's a lot of talk recently about analyzing the surface finish. You've got laser scanners for checking RAs and the grit ratings and everything else. If you were to take a ball that's a 5,000 grit, say a bowler might take a sanding pad and just hit it really quickly while they're on the lanes. They may hit it with a 2,000 pad, but they're not actually taking that ball down to a 2,000 grit finish. They may bring it down from, say, 5,000 to 4,000 grit, realistically, when they're doing that. Well, if you were to feel the difference with your hand between the 5,000 to 4,000 grit, you could tell that there's a difference there, but it's not as significant as if you were rubbing your hand over the ball and you could feel the engravings on there. So obviously the engravings are making a difference in the performance of the ball, especially if they're passing over the track area consistently. These graphics are actually manufactured with cover stock material, the same formulation that's used on the rest of the shell. So you're getting a consistent reaction 360 degrees around the ball with no disruption from engravings. And one thing in terms of ball selection goes, we really wanted to, for the pro shop's perspective, for the bowler's perspective, if a bowler is talking to a particular coach about maybe a Motiv ball that they have now and they want to know, okay, I'm looking at upgrading my piece of equipment, or maybe because of the coaching, the way that they've bowled has changed, so a different piece of equipment would be better for their condition. We wanted to put together a chart that would really help simplify that process. So, I mean, obviously we thought about some basic things. I mean, of course, you know, RGs are going to make the ball make an earlier move than a higher RG ball. Higher RG balls are going to make a later move. Higher differential, of course, produces more track flare, so of course you're going to want to use those when you want stronger ball motion. And finishes, obviously a polished finish is going to be cleaner, more back end, sanded finish, going to be smoother. So we put together a chart, and I'm sure you can't read this from where you're sitting, but across the top there, this column on the far left is what we call smooth motion. The column on the far right is angular motion, and obviously we're going to be working on filling some of those holes this season. But there's also moderate. Now, the rows across the top, you've got heavy oil up at the very top to light oil down at the bottom. So if a particular bowler, say they're bowling with the Venom strike down in the corner down there now, that blue and orange ball, and they want something that's going to be for a little bit more oil volume and has a snappier back end than that piece, then they could obviously move up to that red ball, the new Primal Rage that we're coming out with in July, and that's going to give them that more angular back end motion, and it's going to be for heavier oil volumes. So this document is going to be really helpful to the pro shops. This is something that's in our catalog. It's on our website. And if you're a pro shop and you're interested in putting one up on the wall in the shop, just so that bowlers have a reference, we have these available in the booth 630 at Expo. And I can get one to you also if you want me to just send one out. But that was something that we wanted to put together to kind of simplify the product line for people. Something else that we've done that we felt was really helpful for the novice bowlers was we have a very, very basic information sheet on our website, and it's called Selecting a High Performance Ball. If you're, I mean, for you pro shops, this information is so dumbed down that you'd go, yeah, this is obvious. But, you know, to somebody who's new to bowling, you know, say you're a coach and you're working with somebody who really doesn't even understand the role that friction is playing on the lanes, this document is really helpful. We talk about it in terms of fuel in the tank. We talk about in this document that when you're putting energy into the ball, that you're fueling it up. And we say there's a certain amount of fuel that you need left in the tank when you hit the pins so that you strike and that you continue through the pins properly. And then we explain that the role friction has in that process, and that friction sucks energy and fuel out of the ball. So let's say that if you have to, I mean, just for an example, let's say that you put 10 units of fuel into a ball. at release. And let's say to continue properly through the pins, you need 4 units of fuel left in the tank at impact. You can then go back to a bowler and explain that if they're using a ball, let me go back here. If they're using a ball like this Raptor Talon up at the top corner that's designed for heavy oil, they put that 10 units of fuel into the ball, but it's consuming, there's so much friction created by that ball on a house shot that they're actually consuming 9 units of fuel, so it hits really weak with only 1 unit of fuel left. So that's just kind of basically with that document that we have in place. It's a good reference for the bowlers. That's why we have it on the website. But it's something that you may want to be aware of too, just so that from a coaching perspective, it's something you can just point people to and say, you know, here's some basic information that you might want to read through. It'll help them understand kind of a little bit more of the role of friction, and it'll also give them a good perspective on different ball selection. The other thing that I wanted to touch on today is, in terms of new technology, is our new urethane ball plugging kit that we came out with. How many people here are familiar with Techline HD ball plug, that system? Okay. Now, we've been Techline products for a long time, and we introduced the brand Motiv 4 years ago, and so we talked to people in terms of were Techline products bringing out Motiv. Well, now because so many people are familiar with the Motiv brand, we're doing away with the Techline brand, and everything is going to be rebranded as Motiv. So if you're using Techline products right now, you'll start to see that change in the labeling and everything coming through. But the Techline HD ball plug is an epoxy system, and the HD epoxy system is still the best choice for standard plugging. But the urethane systems, of course, are becoming more and more popular because they're faster cure. So if you've got an urgent situation, somebody's in town for a tournament, they can't wait 24 hours for that ball for a pitch change or a layout change. They got to have it done within 3 hours and get it back. So the urethane systems are really growing in popularity because of that. Typical problems, though, with urethane is that you have all kinds of issues with air bubbles and crystallization. So if you've used a urethane system, you just know that it's so difficult to get around that. Well, we took what we've learned in cover stock technology, and we also went to a totally new packaging system that is going to protect this new formulation so you don't get those air bubble issues or anything else. And I'll just pass this around if you want to just quick take a look at this. But this is a plug that we did with that matrix system, and you can take a look at it and see what it's got in terms of air. There's hardly anything in there. But we took a sample kit and we sent it out to 20 different pro shops around the country to get their feedback on this. And every single pro shop that responded to us said, this product is absolutely amazing. I had no issues with air bubbles, no issues with crystallization, cured super fast. It cures in as little as 5 to 10 minutes as far as being hard to the touch, so you can rotate the ball and do a thumb hole or rotate it, do the finger holes at the same time. And you can drill it in about an hour. The one thing that a lot of people commented on was that I guess with the typical urethane systems, they actually swell when you finish them and then can shrink back down as they cure. They don't have that issue with this system at all. But the packaging is actually kind of one of the keys in this whole process. If you've worked with urethanes, you know that anytime you introduce moisture, the humidity into the product, you get those issues with the air bubbles. So with this packaging system, what we've done, instead of having pumps, we actually went to this bladder style packaging. So once you receive the product and you put the spout on, there's no air getting back into this. As the product is consumed, the bladder just collapses until it's empty. With a pump system, every time you push that pump head down, there's no way for that pump head to come back up unless it sucks air back into that chamber. So even if you're capping off the tip, you still have air inside that chamber that it pulled back in, which puts moisture into the product. So that's part of the reason why you always have those issues with the urethanes. So, but the one thing I wanted to mention with this new urethane system, phenomenal performance, but the one comment, and I want to mention it here because some people had an issue with this. When they first got the urethane kit, they opened the box up, and it tells them, you know, there's a little circle right here that says remove this panel. So they were pulling this panel off and then trying to unscrew the cap here and install the spout. So it was really difficult. So they were getting leakage and they couldn't get it down in there. Really simple. When you order this urethane kit, just open this package right up and then reach down inside of there and pull this out. And then you can grab right onto that neck and make sure that you're securing this completely on there so that you don't cross-thread it or have any issues with leakage. But with this urethane system, it colors really well, as you can see from that piece going around there. It's a great alternative to slugging, and for people who are doing custom molded thumb inserts, we've got a lot of people that are already using it, guys on our pro staff that use the custom thumb inserts that say it's phenomenal because it's so smooth, just because you don't have those issues with the air bubbles and crystallization. So, and that pretty much concludes my presentation, short and sweet for you guys today. Any questions at all about the product line or the urethane system or anything else I can help you with? Yeah, go ahead. It's I mean, you can adjust the densities of the cores. You can do different things with the densities to get. I think from some standpoints, it becomes a cost perspective. There's certain raw materials that you have to use to get certain densities in products, and it can sometimes become very expensive to produce a 10-pound ball that utilizes the same core. So, and I think from some perspective too, from a manufacturing standpoint, if you look at the amount sometimes of 10 and 11-pound balls that you sell, as opposed to some of the higher weights, it's pretty easy to justify saying we're just going to go to a generic core because it's just a nightmare to stock all these different cores. So I really think that, quite honestly, from a cost standpoint, it's more efficient to do the generic cores. But we've just always been such a stickler for, performance and quality that we just rather spend a little bit more money and make sure that we're giving people the same core that matches up with the ball. So, yeah, it is the ball plug kit now, and this number that I'm throwing out there is just like what we call direct price if you were to buy direct. If you were to buy a kit of HD ball plug, which is a 2-gallon kit, it would be $175 if you bought it directly from us. The distributors sell it for way less than that. This kit is a 1-gallon kit, because the intention of it is that it's not for standard plugging, so it's half the size. But our price on this is $83 if you were to buy it direct. So it's a little less expensive per ounce than the epoxy ball plugs, but in terms of the urethane pricing, it's right in there. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 1-to-1. Yeah. We've done, most of our testing has been isolated to our own products just to make sure that it passes our durability standards. We haven't done anything extensive where we've acquired competitor products and done extensive testing to do a comparison that way. And as far as durability, are you referencing, you're talking about just cover life, or are you talking about issues with cracking and that type of thing? Yeah. Both. Yeah, all of the above, right? Yeah, no, all of that type of testing has just been done on our own product. So, whenever we do a new cover stock release, that's always, because people have commented on our cover stock longevity and the durability of our shells, that's always one of our concerns when we do a new cover stock formulation, is we're like, we don't want to put something out there that all of a sudden is inferior to other products we've been making. So we put our own products through a regiment of durability testing to make sure they pass our standards. Whoops, sorry about that. To pass our standards before we put it out on the market, but not the comparisons with other people's products. Any other questions at all from anyone? Sure. Be happy to. Yeah, let me back up a little bit and put that chart back up on the screen. The question was, he asked if I could talk a little bit about Motiv's release schedule and kind of why we do what we do. He made the comment that we haven't quite been glacially slow in terms of putting out new ball releases, but we're not keeping up with everybody else apparently. So, which is by design. No, I know. You're not asking us to put out 20 balls a year, right? No, kind of the idea behind that was, when we first started, we knew. First of all, when we got involved in the ball manufacturing, obviously, if we were just going to be another ball brand, there was no point in doing it. So first of all, we thought, look, we've got to do something different if we're going to get into this. And part of the reason, I'm sure you all have kind of heard rumors, and I haven't mentioned the company name, but we got involved in the ball business because one of our biggest customers moved their operation outside of the country. So we were literally, the reason that we chose to get in the ball business is because we literally had a plant in Muskegon that we had been operating for 40 years, where we had 20-some people employed. We owned all the equipment. We had the operation. So you're sitting there with a decision of, gosh, do we just shut this down and walk away and put 20-some people out of a job? And we obviously decided no. But if we were going to get in the ball business, we knew we had to be different somehow. So the one thing we knew was that we could offer top quality. But the thing is, with quality and performance, it's not something that people see right away. You can't put a product on the market and you go, oh, wow, look at this, is obviously better quality and performance than anybody else. That's going to take time. So we knew we had to have something different. And this patented NeoMark Graphics system gave us kind of the differentiating factor that we were looking for. Kind of getting to your question in a roundabout way. Sorry about that. Hey, no problem, no problem. You're getting your money's worth out of me, right? So really, the focus on trying to do things the right way came down to us having discussions with distributors right out of the gate, because we were already selling products through the Techline brand. We had distribution in place. So we spoke with the distributors and said, look, if we were really to set ourselves apart a little bit in terms of service, what are some things that we can do? How can we be a better supplier? And one of the comments was, good grief, please don't do so many stinking ball releases, because they were just, and we just hear it time and time again. It's like, oh my gosh, why are they doing 4 or 5 balls right now, and that type of thing. So of course there's a balance. As everybody knows in the industry, you've got a certain window to sell the product, and then things start to tail off. So you've got to have that constant product line going. And our game plan is really to do 8 releases a year. That's kind of our target, is to do that. And that's what we really try to stick to. Now, in terms of this past year, it will be 9 releases, because in May there were 2 different colors on the new Ascent Pearl Ball that we put on the market. But really, that's kind of the thought behind it, is we want to do it in a controlled way so that there's a purpose behind every release. On the chart, this chart last year, some of these fields that are open now were filled last year, but the balls, obviously because of the attrition within any ball line, some of those items have been discontinued and went away, which opened up spots on there. But what we would love, I don't know how this would ever happen, but we actually also have a business that's involved in the hockey industry, in ice hockey. And when we go to those trade shows, people go to those shows with their entire line right up front at the beginning of the season. And it's so funny, because it's like what everybody would dream of. It's like you guys as pro shops would love us to just have an entire product line right up front at the beginning of the season. From a manufacturing standpoint, that would be ideal. It's like you just put it out, you know what I mean? It'd just be so much easier for everybody. So I don't know how you get out of the rat race that it's in right now, but we just try to keep it controlled and do releases with a purpose. I hope that answers your question in about 10 minutes. Any other questions at all about the... Oh, go ahead. Well, we think about that just a little bit differently, in terms of, we don't make a generic statement and say that color makes a significant difference. What we've done, we actually just concluded a small test, because we had some new theories on colors recently. And what we've found, more than the color itself, there's a lot of different suppliers that you can purchase pigments from. And those suppliers use different things as bases, and they manufacture those pigments in different ways. So you can actually have 3 different reds that you purchase from 3 different companies, and those 3 balls are going to perform quite differently from one another. So for us to say, we don't come right out and say that color itself makes a difference. It's the chemistry that's in those colors and how it reacts with the urethane is what really makes the final determination. Does that answer your question? Sure. Yeah, everything we do is in-house. From sketching cores on a napkin to actually cranking out the final ball. It's all done right at our plant in Muskegon, Michigan. Our offices are in Spring Lake. The reason for that is for years we were manufacturing the bowling ball cores at our plant in Spring Lake, which was conveniently close to our largest customer. And we had offices in Spring Lake where we manufactured chemical products for customers like Lowe's and Home Depot, that type of thing, a totally different product line. And then we also were doing the hockey business out of that office as well. So then when we went from being strictly a supplier to now we've got our own brand of bowling balls, we still have the manufacturing plant in Muskegon, but the offices are in Spring Lake. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, all the CAD design, everything from start to finish is done right at our plant in Muskegon. They ship them out to Spring Lake where our warehouse is too. So we warehouse the balls in Spring Lake and fulfill orders from there to distributors. Sure. Sure. From my perspective, quite honestly, I know this seems really simplistic, but in a lot of our conversations with bowlers, talking to them on the phone, they actually find this simple chart to be really helpful. If you talk to them in terms of medium oil being your typical house shot, it gives you a really good starting point for the conversation. And in terms of the ball motion, do you like bananas or do you like hockey sticks? Your left-hand column over there for the smooth motion, and then your angular column, and then the stuff in the middle is right in between those two. So it's simple for the conversation from that standpoint in terms of what they're looking for. But if they want to see actual ball motion videos, we have a YouTube page which has a ball motion video on each piece. And a lot of times in those videos there will be 2 or 3 comparisons with other balls in the product line. We also have a forum people can go on to and post questions. We've got staffers that will jump right on there and respond to questions right away. So they're having conversations with sometimes guys on the PBA Tour. And you too, if you're jumping onto that forum, it's really active. And then also on our Facebook page, some people throw questions out there. We're actually the #1 bowling brand on Facebook in terms of ball manufacturers. We have almost 40,000 people that are following us, or whatever you call it, that people do on Facebook. And that community is really active. It's if you look at our Facebook page, it's not just people. It's not just somebody from our office posting a message like, "Hey, we just tested the new Primal Rage today." I mean, it's actual conversation with people in the Motiv community. So they're asking a lot of those questions that you're talking about. Somebody will jump on there and say, "Hey, I own the Primal Scream. I'm looking at a Primal Rage. When would I use this? Anybody have any comments like that?" So if you use all those media tools that are available to you, you should definitely be able to get the answers you're looking for. Right. Yeah. And we don't offer any training or anything in terms of that. I mean, IBSI is certainly your organization for helping you with that type of stuff. But in terms of understanding our product line and how pieces fit together, using any of those tools that I mentioned to you will help a ton. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I mean, we're really fortunate because, and maybe I just feel this way because I'm biased, but it really seems like we have a really good community of people behind the Motiv brand that are willing to step up and help each other out. I mean, in terms of, the Facebook people that are on the forum responding to questions, everybody's really helpful. Everybody's feeling like they're part of the same team, which is really, really a cool thing and I think unique. Any other questions at all? Oh, the Wounded Warrior program. Yeah, that's still going on. The Wounded Warrior Project, it's basically a program where people, and it goes on right through Veterans Day. Yeah, so anybody that registers that ball up to Veterans Day, we'll donate $5 for every tank ball purchased for that. So that's still going on right through till that date. So, all right, well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.